Hello, 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 and welcome to the European Edge. I'm your host, Andrii Suslenko. And what a week it has been. In the United States, Donald Trump has been indicted on charges that could add up to over 30 years in prison, and that's huge and wild. While in the UK, it's raining. Again, just like in Warsaw, by the way, where I am. But not just any rain, crazy near hurricane-like weather is slamming the country, and that's huge and wet. Closer to home, here in the New Europe, Belarus accidentally sent military helicopters into Polish airspace, which is huge and, frankly, terrifying. And we suspect not an accident at all, or was it? And those are just some of the huge stories we will not be covering today. Coming up today is how your video games are melting your brain, and how Taylor Swift is melting your hearts, and how Iranian men are melting in each other's arms. All that, plus our in-depth look at the politics in your favorite sports, and our interview of the week. It's gonna be huge and legendary, so stick around and don't forget to subscribe to us here and like us on YouTube. Now, let's get on with the show. And what is that in the sky? A plane? A bird? No, it's a drone strike hitting Moscow again, and that's just super, man. This past weekend, Ukraine launched a series of drone attacks on Moscow, which damaged a 50-story office building. This was the 6th successful drone attack in the past several months, and one of the dozens since the war began. By the way, you still call it a conflict, huh? And how do you think, what was the Russian response?
How dare you? How dare you?
Yeah, that's right. The Russian Ministry of War was outraged, calling it an attempted terrorist attack. Holy shit, attempted terrorist attack, really? And former Russian President Dmitry Medvedev said Moscow would be forced to use nuclear weapons again if the Ukrainian counteroffensive is successful. In other words,
let's go! Come on! Come on!
wow, Ukraine strikes back at a country which has been trying to bomb it into the Stone Age for over 520 days. The nerve! I mean, can you even compare the damage that Ukraine has caused with its drones to endless Russian missile attacks like this one in Kharkiv last year?
Russian bombs have ripped through these buildings in central Kharkiv. The area is silent and brutally scarred.
The drone attacks in Moscow served as a wake-up call to Russian citizens that they are actually involved in a real war and not an imaginary one, like, say, Star Wars, the Battle for Middle-earth, or Vietnam. And while small in scale, the attack sent a very clear message to Russian citizens.
Что-то прилетело, клянусь. Такой взрыв был второй раз уже.
That message was best summarized by Ukrainian President Zelensky, who stated that the war is returning to the territory of Russia. Or, in other words, greetings, Vatniki, you can hide, but you cannot run. And then, hours later, as if by magic, Zelensky's hometown of Kryvyi Rih was struck by Russian missiles, killing 6, including a 6-year-old girl. Is it just a coincidence? I don't think so. And I'm sure, after the next Ukrainian drone attack, Russia will respond the same way it always does. There's a ghost in your machine, and it's talking pure. For those of you who can't get enough Russian propaganda from the internet or social media or Tucker Carlson, guess what? It's coming for your video games. That's right. Thought you were safe in your parents' basement with an Xbox or PlayStation? Think again. A New York Times report details how games like Minecraft and World of Tanks, which I used to play, and discussion sites like Discord and Steam have become venues for pure, vodka-fed Russian propaganda. Online players use the letter Z, that's Z for you Americans, the pro-Russian symbols for the invasion of Ukraine. They repeat the attempts to label Ukrainians as Nazis and even created a Russia Day parade on Roblox, which 13-year-old kids playing, which looks like it was about as much fun as the real-world one. So ask yourself this question.
Shall we play a game?
Oh, is right, younger time traveler Matthew Broderick. Watch out! For example, the video game Atomic Heart, released earlier this year, is set in 1950s USSR. It is filled with proud red banners and it boasts technological achievements that make Steve Jobs look Amish. In a wild coincidence, Atomic Heart's developer, a company called Moonfish, has deep connections with the Russian state itself. No way. And was accused of harvesting user data for the benefit of Russian state authorities. Yeah, game over, Moonfish. Now, come on, Russia. Putting Z's on digital tanks, call the Ukrainians Nazis? You call that propaganda? You bore us with your outdated nationalistic messaging. Let me show you how to do it right. It's time to make propaganda great again. If you really want to capture hearts and minds, there is a whole world of classic video games that could be updated. I've got Putman Fever. It's driving me fucking crazy. Or instead of the Rock Band video game, or maybe a Russian Rock Band video game. Get off the stage, loser. Bring on Oasis. But there is some good news. A Finnish newspaper has embedded a secret map in the video game Counter-Strike Global Offensive. I've spent dozens of hours playing this game when I was younger. So, this map leads to a secret room containing real news reports about the war in Ukraine, which Russia started, which bypass government censorship and can be read by Russian citizens who play the game online. Thank you, game producers. And the Steam platform features video games like Death from Above and Slava Ukraini, which allow players to send Russian invaders back to the motherland or fatherland or whatever they came from. So, there's hope in the counter-propaganda video game world. Unless, of course, Russia is right now working on counter-propaganda to counter the counter-propaganda, which means we could have to come up with counter-propaganda to counter the counter-propaganda, and fuck, my head hurts. Now let's get complex. This next story proves an old saying. It's not the size, Mick, that matters. It's how you use it. With photo ops like these, Taylor Swift has been making teenage boys shake uncontrollably for years. Nothing new there, right? But at a recent performance in Seattle, the foot stomping of her fans triggered an event which was equivalent to a 2.3 magnitude earthquake and was felt by people up to several miles away. Ooh. And no, it was not the noise of Satan summoning her back to hell. Meanwhile, in a more minor and boring earthquake, Elon Musk has allowed his old friend Kanye, his old friend Ye, back onto social media platform Twitter, his social media platform X, after he was banned for picking up a fight with the entire Jewish religion, picking up a fight with Larry David a few months ago. Taylor and Kanye are, of course, old friends. Remember when Kanye did this?
When you hear about slavery for 400 years, for 400 years, that sounds like a choice.
Yeah, Kanye, you made your choice. Oddly, Taylor Swift was once a darling of alt-right, who thought she was the perfect Aryan goddess because she kept her mouth shut in between songs, like they believe a good woman should do. But she has since disappointed her neo-Nazi admirers by coming out as a feminist and endorsing Democratic candidates in the US. So, plot twist, in 2023, Kanye West is a Nazi and Taylor Swift is a feminist activist. I bet no one had that on their bingo card. Move over, Priscilla. There's a new queen of the desert. We all know that the Iranian government does not just make life miserable for Ukrainians by selling cheap arms to Putin. It makes the lives of ordinary Iranians pretty miserable too, especially women and members of the LGBTQ community. Homosexual activity is punishable by death, and it is illegal for women to go out in public without a hijab. And one of the biggest enforcers of repressive laws was the guy called Reza Sagari. He was the head of culture and Islamic guidance in the Gilan province until a leaked video appeared to show him having sex with another man. We honestly do not know what to call this Iranian porn, the gay Iranian porn, the Iranian porn. It's a brand new genre, so no one's quite settled on the name of it yet. Please email us with your thoughts, though. Now, I can't show you the sex tape itself as it's been pulled off from social medias, and frankly, I did not want to ruin my internet browser history. But perhaps this scene from Love, Victor offers a tasteful representation of what went down, so to speak.
Damn, this is torture. Don't stop.
Just imagine one of these guys with a full beard and the other man with a Quran dangling suggestively out of his back pocket. Okay, enough of that. The Iranian government has said very little about this scandal, only that Tsagari has been removed from his post and that they had no prior knowledge of his passion to art house cinema. But there has to be more to the story, no? We have the number for the Iranian mission at the UN, and I'm gonna try calling them right now. We're gonna try talking to them.
Thank you for calling. This is Mission of Iran to the United Nations. For English, please dial 1 now. زندگی جمهوری اسلامی ایران نزد سازمان ملل متحد است. اگر شماره داخلی مخاطب خود را می‌دانید، همکنون آن را وارد کنید.
Hi, may I help you?
Hi, my name is Andrii Suslenko. I'm a journalist calling from Warsaw and a program called The European Edge. I have a couple of questions about Reza Tsagati's and allegations against him.
Okay, let me transfer to press department. One moment, please.
Yeah, please.
Thank you for calling.
Okay. I think they're just too busy right now. And, oh wait, they texted me. Who this? New phone. Okay. Next up, the disunited colors of Benetton. While everyone else is keeping with blue and yellow, they are staying blue, white, and red. At the start of the war, a number of international companies decided to pull out of Russia. The first to go were BP, Shell, ExxonMobil, and McDonald's, which is weird, as these guys are far better known for being unethical and even evil, so now they're doing the right thing. Even the car manufacturer Renault put principles before profit when they sold their stake in Avtovaz for 1 ruble, and as you can see, enlisted the help of dead French actor Jacques Tati to move their product out of the evil empire. But there are still a lot of corporations hanging on in there, over 550 according to a recent Yale University report. Some, like Coke and Apple, are trading via backdoor with third countries, so they will go in our famous sanctions bad guy jar, which I'm gonna have here through all of the shows. And with each greedy company represented by one tiny dead, wounded, or missing soldier, and at least 223 more, adding up to these two, are conducting business as usual. And these are not just young startups trying to earn an honest living, like the good, hardworking people at Bob's Brilliant Borscht Bar. We're talking massive household names like Benetton, Lacoste, Siemens, Bosch, Philips, and most heartbreakingly of all, TGI Fridays. TGI Fridays, come on! Would TGI Fridays even work in Russia? As the Ukrainian, I would say, just don't go there. I know it will be hard, but no, we must control our greedy appetites. F that war. In our main story today, we turn our attention from economic sanctions to the power of sports and international affairs. When is a sport not just a sport? When it's used as a tool for political protest and for putting pressure on governments to change their ways. Like at the 1968 Olympics, when runners Tommy Smith and Joan Carlos raised their fists on the medal podium in support of human rights. More recently, we have all seen the protests in the NFL with African-American players taking a knee during the national anthem. And in international sports, last year, the German World Cup football team, that's soccer, Americans, publicly protested FIFA's banning of One Love armbands, which supports LGBTQ rights. Let's call all this sports diplomacy. And with Eastern Europe rocked by the war in Ukraine, it's no surprise that this has recently happened. That's Ukrainian fencer Olga Harlan refusing to shake the hand of her Russian opponent after beating her in a match. Go Olga! Harlan was expelled from the international competition after the incident, though she has been since reinstated. But personally, I see this as a missed giant opportunity. We could have just settled the war right there with a thrust, a parry, and a Dacian Zora kind of move. Pret, allez, have at you. Harlan would then declare total victory over Russia, and we could all go back to our normal lives. Now that is sport diplomacy we'd like to see, but no. So what all these protests add up to? Are they effective? What's really at the stake? Answer, two things, pride and money. Historically, a fine example of an attempt at nationalism via sport comes from their Führer himself, Adolf Hitler. The 1936 Olympics were supposed to showcase the might of Germany's Aryan athletes and give a feeling of, I don't know, this maybe? But nope. Unfortunately, for the Third Reich, a black American athlete named Jesse Owens swept the medals, and Hitler was so embarrassed and outraged that he left the stadium after only shaking hands with the German athletes. Classy. More recently, we only need to look to the new Third Reich, Russia, to see how sports plays into politics. Moscow loves nothing better than to show its athletes off to the world, from traditional sports like hockey to more obscure ones like Chechen invitation slap fighting. I'm gonna put 100 zloty on Zelimhan. Russia has always enhanced its national identity and its bank accounts through international sports. The soul came together at the 2014 Sochi Olympics when Moscow hosted the world's greatest athletes in shitty but highly profitable crony-built housing. The Russians then tried to guarantee a total victory by using members of their secret service to run an epic drug doping program. In the end, 11 Russian athletes lost their medals, and they joined the honor roll of over 200 other Russian athletes who have been banned for doping since the 1990s. And that, my friends, is the world record. But all this is exhausting, and I have an interview to get on with. So seriously, I'm so f***ing wiped. Yeah, let's get on with the show. And we're continuing our show with an in-depth interview about the upcoming elections in Poland and the regional security here in the New Europe. My guest tonight is Chris Gotowski. Welcome, Chris. You are an expert and analyst in international relations, and especially in the region. I'm happy that you joined us. Let's start right away with the very important question. How terrified of Belarus are you from 1 to 10, where 10 is terrified?
0. That's the truth. I mean, like 1, okay, you said 1 to 10, so 1, I'd say.
1, okay.
Yeah.
You don't see it as a problem, what's happening now?
It's a problem. It's a problem, but I don't actually personally feel that there should be too much cause for concern. Reasons. A, Belarusian economy is a Mickey Mouse economy. Okay?
I agree.
Let's say that straight up, right? Exactly. So it's a weak economy. They have a weak army. So that first and foremost. But you're right. As far as scariness, yes, because what's happening, because of what happened, the rigging of the election, because of Belarus becoming de facto occupied by Russia.
Yeah.
Wagner's involvement in the country and their bases there. Of course, we have to look at Belarus, definitely. This is for sure. But I would say just in general that I'm not too concerned about Belarus. I think the West should get tougher with Belarus. That's a different point.
How? How tougher?
Well,
Will they send tanks?
No tanks. No, definitely not, no tanks. But okay, first of all, sanctions. I mean, like, that could be just an easy one right there. Now, another thing that's a little bit controversial, I'm sure the European Union would not like this, but closing the borders.
Yeah, wow, that would be good. No more spies in Poland.
That's right.
I'm surprised with the amount of spies they find here every week.
Yeah.
Can you comment on that?
I don't know how many, but apparently there's loads. Apparently there's more and more over the past while, especially since 2002. This is something that could really hurt Belarus big time. Also indirectly Russia as well. Close the borders. Not only Poland, Lithuania and Latvia as well.
Okay.
There are talks about this, but they're saying they're only going to do this if Belarus follows through with its threats. They're going to send mass migrants, on purpose to the border again.
Do you think Prigozhin and the Wagner Group will be sent to Poland in some way as, I don't know, as refugees?
No.
You don't think so?
No.
How fast do you think Polish army will put into dust the Prigozhin's army?
If actually push came to shove?
Yeah.
Right away.
Right away.
Yeah.
How
They wouldn't hesitate for a second, I think.
Polish army has been increasing its numbers from 170,000 people to 300 something-ish.
With a plan of 300,000, yeah.
Do you think it's necessary?
Yes, I do. I think it's the right approach. Poland's taking its defense very seriously right now. They're on a spending spree from U.S. weapons, South Korean weapons. As you said correctly, they're expanding the army to 300,000. That's the game plan right now. I think it's absolutely the right thing to do given the geopolitical situation, given the situation, what's happening in Ukraine, Belarus as well. I think it's the right approach, certainly.
Now coming to Polish elections and how this will affect the region, actually, the New Europe that we call it. PiS is fighting with the opposition coalition. Is that correct?
That's right. Polls have narrowed over the past couple of years, and over the past few months, PiS is winning in the polls, of course, by a handful of percent, probably 3-4%.
I'm going to give you money. Who would you bet on this time?
Oh, you're putting me on the spot.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me put it this way. I hate to say it, but I think that PiS will get the most votes.
Okay.
But, this is very important, but they won't get a majority. That would be a big change from the past 8 years.
How will it affect the Ukraine-Polish relationships if they will win, but they will not have the majority?
I don't think it will change anything because in Parliament, for example, anything that will be passed as far as, say, weapons deliveries to Ukraine or financial aid or what have you, the opposition will support PiS as a minority in that respect. Of course, there's a chance that the opposition will form a technical government, so they'll get majority in Parliament with the whole opposition. There's a chance, slim chance. The most likely scenario is that the third party in Parliament, well, not Parliament, third party in the polls, rather, Confederation, that they're going to be maybe as a coalition with PiS or indirect coalition.
What do you think is the construct that will benefit the U.S. the most? As you say, they say Ukraine is a puppet of the U.S., and so what if Poland is the puppet of the U.S.? So let's assume that is true. So what would be the construct that would really fit Joe Biden's agenda?
Well, I think that Joe Biden maybe would prefer if the coalition, civic coalition, would win the election and have a government with a coalition bloc of the left-wing parties or the centrist parties. I think they would prefer that. That being said, when it comes down to military ties, relations vis-a-vis Ukraine, Joe Biden actually likes PiS in that respect. So it has to be said. Poland's been buying a lot of weapons under PiS from the United States. A lot of those HIMARS, the Hausners.
Patriots? I've been to Rzeszów, I saw that.
Yeah, the tanks, Abraham tanks. So there's huge sales going on with regard to that. So I think in that respect, relations are going to be good either way with the States. But on a personal level, probably Joe Biden and the Democrats would prefer the opposition to win. That being said, who knows what's going to happen in the United States?
That's the next question. Who would you bet on, Joe Biden or Donald Trump?
Joe Biden.
Joe Biden.
Joe Biden.
Is it like what I want, or it's how it's going to be?
I think it's how it's going to be. Although it is worrisome for me personally that the more court cases Trump has, the higher his support is. Yeah.
Let's delve into the area a little bit. I want to do the poll with you. Okay. Let's start first with Prigozhin. What is the feeling about Prigozhin's failed coup in Russia?
I think it was, first of all, a huge shock to begin with, like everywhere. Everybody was shocked about
that it was happening, or it was over?
That it was over so quickly, I think.
Okay.
That it happened to begin with, shock. That it ended so quickly, also shock. But I think that in Poland in general, people were surprised that even it came down to something like this, right? I mean, here was Russia saying how mighty they are, and then Prigozhin just kind of walking through the whole country almost. But on the other hand, all jokes aside, it shows also how unstable the situation is in Russia.
Right.
So I think it was a kind of mixed bag in Poland, the feeling that on one hand, people were supporting that, okay, it's getting a little bit crazy, Russia could get weakened, sure, good. On the other hand, what the heck is going on.
Do you think some Polish oligarchs would have their private armies?
There is no real Polish oligarchs, to be honest. Unlike the other countries in Central Eastern Europe, Poland actually didn't have real oligarchs. But you're talking about some of the richest people in the country. I don't think that's in anybody's interest, to be honest, to be frank with you.
Let's go to tougher things.
Yeah.
Barbie or Oppenheimer?
I want to see Oppenheimer on Saturday.
That's really good.
Yeah.
I liked it a lot, so
Yeah.
in my opinion, Oppenheimer, of course, wins.
Yeah.
But you will tell me that later.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on forward. Do you think Polish troops will ever fight in Ukraine?
I'd say no. I'd say no.
Would you elaborate?
I would say that for the time being, I think the formula that Poland is involved in the United States, etc., as much military aid as possible, supporting Ukraine financially, giving logistical support, intelligence support, and letting the Ukrainians do the job that they're doing very, very well. I think that's what, it's kind of, I'd say, similar kind of, U.S. relationship with Israel.
Chris, how do you think, what and how shall Ukrainians do to get the F-16s?
Well, I think it's the same story over and over and over again since the war started. It restarted actually in February, right, in 2022. Ukraine demands something, says they need it. The West rejects it. The West starts debating it. The West agrees on it. And then way down the line,
so we're going to need time.
Ukraine will get them.
Let's see Eastern European countries, which are nearby Poland.
Yeah.
Let's try ranking their level of quality relationships with Poland at the moment.
Okay.
And how it might be affected by the election results. Let's start from the Baltic states and then go a bit down.
Okay, the Baltic states have very good relationship with Poland right now, and will after the elections, regardless who wins. Hungary, that's an interesting one.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm going to call it Orbania. How does it look?
I think that's fair enough to say. Okay. I like that. So Orbania, let's call that?
Orbania, yeah.
Orbania, Hungary. So peace had very good relations with Hungary over the past 8 years. Huh. Kaczynski even said, we want a Budapest and Warsaw. That was his famous statement initially. By that, he meant that he wanted to turn the system around the way Hungary did.
Okay.
Relations were very, very good until February 2022. They soured a bit, albeit they would get way worse, I think, if the opposition won. And if the opposition forms even a technical government, or if peace is in the minority in the government, relations with Hungary, I think, will deteriorate. Or maybe not fully, but they will get worse. I could bet on that. As far as with Czech Republic and Slovakia, they're good. I think they're as good as they could be right now. Everything is fine. I think it's solid. I think potentially maybe they could be a little bit better with opposition as far as relations with Czech Republic. But in general, they're good. I would say that there's nothing really going wrong.
What about Germany? Will you pay the reparations?
No, they won't.
Will you be paid?
No, we won't. We won't, for sure. In relations with Germany, how they'll be affected, I think they'll be a little bit better when the opposition, if the opposition wins, than they are now. Although, it has to be said, relations are actually good with Germany. This is kind of all for show. Peace does this kind of stuff. Like they talk about reparations before elections. They complain about Germany, this and that. But in reality, relations are pretty good. That being said, I think it has to be pointed out that a lot of countries, not only in Central Eastern Europe, have been disappointed with Germany.
Yeah, that's to say at least, I'd say.
Yeah, I think they've been very disappointed.
From 1 to 10, how disappointed are you with Germans?
I'd say very disappointed. I'm very disappointed because...
Like 9?
I don't know if up there, but...
Okay.
But high, because I would say that Germany is Europe's largest economy, fourth largest economy in the world. They could and they should do more regarding Ukraine.
In the very end, when Poland will become one of the major countries of the world, when it will happen, by the way?
Well, I think that Poland actually, over the past handful of years, has really developed a lot over the past 20 years or so. Now,
will you rule the world?
No, we won't. We don't want to.
You don't want to?
No, we don't want to.
Okay.
But I think, with Poland's economy developing, with military expenditure and development in the military sphere increasing, I think Poland has an opportunity to be more at the heart of Europe. And I think that actually over the past years, with peace being in power, that kind of hindered the process. Because Poland had that opportunity when the UK left the European Union to kind of be the next one in line.
So be it. And then you'll Germany with this.
I wouldn't go as far as that, but yeah.
Chris Gotowski was our guest tonight. We're gonna see you in a moment. And that's about time that we have today. Thank you, Chris Gotowski, and thank you all for joining us, wherever you are. And thank you for spending some time with us here at the European Edge. And please remember, like, share, tweet, TikTok us on social media. And until next time, my name is Andrii Suslenko. See ya.